Hello and welcome to Cleveland Classic Cinema. Tonight's movie is 1972's Night of the Lepus, directed by William F. Claxton.
What happened that night science made its greatest mistake? What unknown terror was born that night? What is the terrifying mutant that strikes from behind the shroud of night? That night of the Lepus. A night of total terror, more shattering than your strangest nightmare. What caused the unnatural death, destruction, and panic that night of the Lepus? Janet Leigh, Stuart Whitman, Rory Calhoun, and Paul Fix. Night of the Lepus. Kill one, and thousands take their place. What devil creatures growing in weight and size every day are hidden behind the eyes of horror? What can stop them? Night of the Lepus. From MGM.
How many eyes does horror have? How many times will terror strike? How far can you projectile vomit? I will give the studio that made this film one thing. They wisely kept the subject matter out of the film vague in the trailer. Otherwise, I can absolutely guarantee no one would have gone to see this movie. For the few of you out there who don't speak Latin, lepus is the Latin word for hare, as in rabbit. Yes, this movie is about giant killer bunny rabbits. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Anyone who knows me personally or has watched this show with any regularity knows how much I hated coming of age in the 1970s. I grew up during the 60s, which, rotten as it was at the very least exciting. The Cuban Missile Crisis, civil unrest, riots, the Beatles, the unfortunate hippie movement, which culminated in the everybody's a winner and I want to be my child's friend instead of his parent idiocy in the PC movement. Although thankfully this kind of nonsense didn't really set in until sometime in the 90s, so we at least had a decade before everything went to rage and ruin. The 70s, however, were something different. Rock clubs became discos. Casual dress gave way to loud print shirts and dresses. Jeans became bell-bottoms or horror of horror elephant bells. Long hair gave way to stylized hair for both men and women. Platform shoes for both men and women became the norm. Mustaches ran rampant. Love beads, which were idiotic in themselves, gave way to open shirts and gold chains and medallions. The price of gas rose to a then astronomical 55 cents a gallon. The decade was a nightmare. Not to say there weren't some good things about the 70s. I met many of the friends I still enjoy the company of in that decade. I discovered progressive rock and fell in love with the band Yes, an affair that continues to this very day. There was some great music. There were a lot of really great times. The decade still sucked, however. As much as I wish I could claim that I never fell into the trap of that decade, I did. I had to. There was nothing else I could do. It was either give in or be steamrolled by the juggernaut of bad taste that ruled that decade. Yes, I had an afro. Yes, I had a mustache. No, I did not have a medallion. No, let me take that back. I think my mom got me one, but I don't recall ever wearing it. Although I tried my level best to be out of style clothing-wise, something I continue to do with a certain amount of pride even today, I fell into the trap of loud print polyester shirts and a particular pair of skin-tight white bell-bottoms that actually made me look like I had an ass. I seem to remember scoring a couple of girlfriends thanks to those pants, now that I think about it. I was more enamored of turtleneck shirts than anything else back then. I recall having a black velvet jacket I purchased at Mad Mail that was a huge part of my go-to hipster outfit. Black jacket, white pants, 4-inch platform shoes that made me freakishly tall. Oh yeah, I was styling, no question about it. No wonder I never got laid. You know, I can't believe I'm actually admitting to all this. It would normally take a team of wild horses to drag this stuff out of me. That'll show you how traumatized I was by watching this movie. I remember when this came out. I remember in particular wondering just what the hell a Lepus was. Luckily, I attended a Catholic school at that time, so the answer was close at hand. As a result of this, I didn't bother wasting my hard-earned money going to see it. In fact, until I actually sat down to watch this movie for this show, I had never seen it. I'd seen clips, but that was about it. Foolish me, I thought they'd prepare me for this. They didn't. Not even close. The plot is as follows. The Arizona ranch of Cole Hillman is overrun with mongrel rabbits. And since he is resistant to the idea of laying out poison for them for fear of killing other wildlife and ruining his property, he is put in touch with a young zoologist couple, although they're really not young, Roy Bennett and his fellow scientist wife, Jerry, for help. They propose introducing genetically mutated blood and hormones into the rabbit population, which sounds about as good an idea as feeding them Viagra. The Bennetts have a darling little blonde daughter who for some reason has a black unibrow, named Amanda, who really likes rabbits. Take a wild guess as to where this is going. They capture a couple dozen rabbits, Cole being bitten by one in the process, ooh, foreshadowing, and take them back to the lab. Of course, the one they inject is the one their daughter decides is her favorite, so when her parents' backs are turned, she swaps the infected one with another one and then takes the patient zero rabbit home with her. On the way back, they stop to get some more test rabbits, and of course, patient zero rabbit gets away. The next thing you know, and this seems to happen in less than a day, people are getting torn apart by giant carnivorous bunny rabbits. Now, how they got so big so fast and why they turned into meat eaters is never explained, but think about it. Could you come up with something reasonable explaining that? I couldn't. The giant bunny rabbits, which seem to be about the size of a large bear and sometimes larger, start attacking humans. The first one that gets nibbled to death is a miner who lives near the Hillman Ranch and is discovered by none other than that little idiot who started the whole mess, Amanda. She sees the giant bunnies with stage blood all over their whiskers and presumably swears off Ricochet rabbit cartoons for the rest of her life. Now let me point out something here which I'm sure has already occurred to anyone watching this intro. Rabbits are not scary. No matter how big they are, no matter how much fake blood you smear on their faces, no matter how close you shoot them going, they're just not scary. I have to give it to the people who made this movie. They do give it their all, but they are fighting a battle that they were doomed to lose from the very beginning. The miniatures are very well done, but the sight of bunny rabbits hopping among them in slow motion to give them a sense of mass is just silly. The guy in the rabbit suit that stands in for the bunnies when they attack a person is just as silly, but wisely they don't linger on it too long in any one shot. The fact that the rabbits go straight for the throats of the various victims makes me think that maybe one of the members of Monty Python's Flying Circus had seen this movie prior to writing Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Well, you know, I could go on for hours like this, and that's no exaggeration. But it's time to get to the bios. Janet Leigh was born Jeanette Helen Morrison on July 6, 1927 in Merced, California. She appeared in 85 movies and television shows in her career, which started when actress Nora Shearer spotted her picture on the front desk of a ski resort where Janet's father was working. Ms. Shearer asked if she could borrow the picture and send it to the casting director at MGM, which resulted in a screen test, which resulted in her landing a starring role in 1947's The Romance of Rosie Ridge. From there, she moved on to ingenue roles in many films, and her star rose accordingly, appearing in films with Errol Flynn, James Stewart, Kirk Douglas, and Charlton Heston, as well as her third husband, Tony Curtis, in 1952's Houdini and 1953's The Black Shield of Falworth, which contains the classic line delivered by Mr. Curtis himself, "Yonder lies the castle of my father, the Caliph." What follows is a spoiler for the film Psycho, so if you haven't seen that, you may want to turn down the volume for the next minute or so. In 1960, she appeared in Alfred Hitchcock's classic Psycho. Her character was killed about halfway through the movie, and that was something that had never happened before in any movie up to that point. The controversy this sparked was, from today's point of view, absolutely amazing. When Marion Crane was stabbed to death in the shower during that movie, the audience knew for the first time that no one was safe in that film. If you could kill off a huge star like Janet Leigh, then anyone could die, and that was unnerving. When asked if she stopped taking showers after shooting that movie, she replied, "It's actually honestly true, and not because of the shooting of it. It was the seeing of it. It never dawned on me how truly vulnerable we are." But that's what Alfred Hitchcock did. A shower, a bird. All these things that are absolutely ordinary, he made extraordinary. She also recalled that Hitchcock enjoyed scaring her, relating a story about how the director used her to test the corpses of Norman's mother. She'd go into her dressing room and the corpse would be propped up in front of her chair right in front of the door. Lee said that Hitchcock used her scream as a gauge to choose the right version. Her next film was 1962's The Manchurian Candidate, directed by John Frankenheimer. There was a rumor that this film was pulled from distribution because of the Kennedy assassination, but that's not true. It was seen on TV until 1972 when the rights reverted to Frank Sinatra, the film's star. Sinatra pulled it from distribution and re-released the film to theaters in 1988, which is where I saw it for the first time. Lee's daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis, became a star herself when she starred in 1978's Halloween, and she appeared with her mother in 1980's The Fog. A lot of people wonder why a star like Janet Leigh would appear in a movie like this. When asked about this, she replied, "The days when I could flit off to Europe to do a movie are over. The night of the Lepus location in Tucson is only an hour from home by air. I was able to go home on the weekends and the family came to me. I have turned down many a Broadway play because I think it is important to be with the girls while they are growing up, and my husband's home base is in California. One makes sacrifices, of course, but they are happy ones." As for the movie itself, she commented, "I've forgotten as much as I could about that picture." Janet Leigh died peacefully in her home on October 3rd, 2004 in Beverly Hills, California. Stuart Whitman was born Stuart Maxwell Whitman, February 1st, 1928 in San Francisco, California. While serving in the Army Corps of Engineers, he began boxing and won 32 light heavyweight bouts. After his discharge, he entered the Los Angeles City College and there became interested in acting. He then studied at the Los Angeles Academy of Dramatic Arts, later touring the country with a theater production of Here Comes Mr. Jordan. He appeared in 188 movies and television shows over the course of his career. His first film was an appearance as an extra in 1951's When Worlds Collide. His first credited film role was in 1956's 7 Men from Now, and his film career stepped up in the mid to late 50s, although he continued to appear on TV. He enjoyed mid-level stardom and shrewdly invested his money instead of blowing it and retired a very wealthy man. Rory Calhoun was born Francis Timothy McCown on August 8, 1922 in Los Angeles, California. He starred in over 80 films and 1,000 TV shows over the course of his long career, starting with an uncredited role in 1944's Something for the Boys, and made his first credited appearance in 1945's The Great John L. as Gentleman Jim Corbett. Before becoming an actor, he worked as a boxer, a truck driver, and a cowpuncher. After being spotted riding a horse in Los Angeles, parked by Sue Carroll, a Hollywood agent and wife of actor Alan Ladd, he passed the screen test and began his career working for 20th Century Fox, mostly appearing in westerns before moving on to other roles, appearing in 1953's How to Marry a Millionaire and 1952's With a Song in My Heart. His final appearance was in 1992's Pure Country. He has 2 stars on Hollywood's Walk of Fame, one for films and one for television. Rory Calhoun died from complications of emphysema and diabetes on April 29, 1999 in Burbank, California. DeForest Kelley was born Jackson DeForest Kelley on January 20, 1920 in Toccoa, Georgia. After graduating high school at the age of 16, he sang in the choir at the Baptist church where his father, Ernest David Kelly, was minister. The next year, he took his first trip away from home to visit an uncle living in Long Beach, California. He was intended to stay for 2 weeks, but ended up staying for a year. Upon returning home, he announced his intent to move to California to pursue an acting career. His mother backed his decision, but his father didn't. While working in a training film for the Navy, he was spotted by a Paramount talent scout and became a character actor, often appearing as a bad guy in westerns. Oddly, although he wanted to be a doctor and never became one, he is undoubtedly best known for his role as Leonard Bones McCoy in the Star Trek series of TV shows and movies, and was very proud that his character inspired fans of the show to become doctors in real life. His first role as a doctor was in 1956's The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit, where he delivered the line, "This man is dead, Captain." Nice! He was first offered the role of Mr. Spock, but took the role of Dr. McCoy instead, but ended up playing both roles in 1991's Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Kelly was a private man and never sought out the spotlight or lived the Hollywood lifestyle. In fact, he was downright shy and never felt comfortable doing interviews or appearing at conventions. On his deathbed, he said to William Shatner, "Let's just make one more Star Trek movie. I sure miss making those movies." DeForest Kelley died of stomach cancer on June 11, 1999, in his home in Woodland Hills, Los Angeles, California. Sharp-eyed viewers will recognize I. Stanford Jolly, the judge from The Violent Years, as a dispatcher in this movie. Oh, who the hell am I kidding? I knew the guy was in the movie and I had to watch it 3 times before I spotted him. Don't bother looking. Believe me, his appearance is not worth watching this movie more than once. One thing that really confuses me about this movie is why didn't they just call Elmer Fudd? I mean, it was made by Warner Brothers, so I'm sure Elmer was somewhere around there. He would have been in heaven. Well, I've solved the inevitable long enough, so right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy Night of the Lepus, right here on Cleveland Classic Cinema. Kill the rabbit, kill the rabbit, kill the rabbit.